What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years of experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today we're going to be continuing our new Golden Age comic book conservation project on this copy of All-Star Comics number 55 from 1950. We're going to get started in earnest and disassemble this book today. Thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you are subscribed to the channel, thank you sincerely. If you hit the bell icon, you'll be notified when we have new videos going up. And if you're not subscribed yet, please do so. It helps us reach a wider audience here on YouTube and create more of a community around our favorite hobby, comic book conservation. In case you missed it, in episode 1 of this series, we did a complete walkthrough of the book, assessed the condition, paying special attention to any defects that affect grade, as well as use of the comic book and permanence of the paper. We determined we had a mostly solid and complete comic book that presented reasonably well and could be read with some care, but with some significant flaws. These include a severe spine roll, a piece missing to the cover, some chipping along the right edge of the front cover, and a severely tanned cover to the point of the paper being brown in the most severely tanned areas. The interior pages were, for the most part, beautiful, with off-white to cream pages and only a few minor flaws, including a pulled top staple on the centerfold and a few very small tears on the reading edge of the first few wraps. We estimated the grade at approximately a 3.0 or good, very good. We developed a conservation plan for this comic book that includes assessment and documentation, disassembly, wet clean and deacidification of the cover with tear seals and paper reinforcement, and the same treatment of the interior wraps as well. After we get everything cleaned, mended, and dried back out, we'll reassemble the book without the spine roll and give it a good finishing press. If the conservation is successful, we can expect a comic book that has cleaner and brighter paper with a new lease on life, usability, and permanence. The comic should have an improved grade and also be easier to read without risking further damage, and the natural lifespan of the comic should be extended by a century or so by virtue of the deacidification we'll perform. It should also present much better and all around be a better collectible. I intend to send it to CGC to be graded and enter it into my CGC registry collection as a placeholder until I can find a high-grade copy of this rare comic book for my collection. I've created a playlist for this project. You can check it out to see all the videos in the series by following the link in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Alright, time to get to work in earnest on this project. Make sure you have clean and dry hands before you handle any of these Golden Age treasures. I'm just going to gently turn to the centerfold. Again, I'm going to fan the pages from the back forward because of the severe spine roll, because I don't want to damage that cover by stressing it, because the staples are essentially on the top surface of the cover. Now that I have the centerfold, we have a little bit of a special situation here in that the top staple is pulled, so the disassembly here is just a little bit different from normal. Here I have my capable staple tool from Rick Morgan over at Immaculate Comics, and I'm going to use that. It has a groove in the bottom. I'm going to use that to stabilize the staple and the paper so that when we use the flawless staple tool, also from Immaculate Comics, we are only working just this arm. Everything else is fixed in place, and the only thing we're doing is bending the metal right at the crook of the arm of that one arm of the staple. Now that I have it vertical, I'm going to use this block of Delrin that I drilled a little hole in to stabilize everything. I use this just because it gives me more purchase, more total surface area, fixes the paper and the staple in place, and then I can work up this other arm very gently. These staples appear to be original even though they're in beautiful shape. And they don't have much patina really to speak of. They're shiny. So again, that top staple's been pulled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove this bottom staple. I like to push with my right hand, pull with my left. And again, that staple is on essentially the front cover. It's really not on the spine. Came out pretty easily. Here it is. Now it looks like I've bent the one arm relative to the other in removing it. So I want to straighten that out a little bit. I don't like to straighten all the bends out. I want to leave the bends that are created during the manufacturing, but I think this curl is something that I probably did in the way that I bent the staple arms up. So I'm going to straighten that a little bit and make the staple sort of appear to be in one plane in terms of the bends. Now I'm going to get myself a piece of painter's tape that I've pre-labeled with T&B, top and bottom. And I'm going to preserve the bottom staple, and I'm going to preserve the orientation. So notice the top of that staple is on the top of that piece of tape. And this is where things are a little bit different when you have a pulled staple. So I've only removed one staple, but I'm about to remove the centerfold. And that reveals to us the other staple arms. And now we can get to work on those. I do have a ring light in front of me, which has a magnifying glass 10x and some intense LED lighting. I also have a studio light, so I have very good lighting and magnification here. Again, this staple here is beautiful. It does appear to be original to me. There's just not a lot of additional marks, marring, or staple indentations on the paper that make me believe that this has been done before. So again, I'll turn, the book is upside down just to give me the best magnification and lighting and allow me to work with good ergonomics where I'm not reaching across my desk very far. And again, I'll stabilize the arm and the book with this block of Delrin. And I'm using that Flawless staple tool because it has a really nice thin edge and it's Teflon coated. So in this instance, we don't have a lot of patina on these staples. They look really shiny and almost new. But in some instances, you have a thin patina on your staple, and you really don't want to use a metal tool that is going to mar that patina or put scratches in the surface of your staple. They do show up, and it does look like, to any observer who's careful, that the book has been potentially tampered with. So you want to avoid leaving any trace of where you've been. Again, I'll preserve both the location and the orientation of this staple by putting it on this piece of painter's tape with its partner, and then I'll set them both up out of the way securely so that they're not going to interfere with any of my work. And when I'm ready to reassemble this book, I'll have them on hand. Now I can take the center fold and place it back with the other interior wraps. And then I can take all of the interior wraps and place them aside until I'm ready to work on them. Best practice for me is I put these on an acid-free backer board and I put them in a Mylar bag. There you can see that severe spine roll. Overall though, this interior really looks beautiful. So we want to protect it. I do this because even if I am ultra careful, sometimes mistakes happen. Maybe somebody else has access to my studio. Heaven forbid you have a pest in your studio. You just want to have this best practice in a Mylar unless you're working on it. So that's what I do. We'll get this protected and out of the way, and then we'll have a little closer look at this cover and do a few more assessments before we do any work on it so that we have as much data as possible for before and after considerations. Here in this still image with color correction, you can see just how severe the tanning is, as well as the missing piece on the spine and the extent of the chipping and loss of paper on the right-hand side of the front cover, which is on the left here because obviously we have the obverse of the exterior wrap facing down. With our owl card, we can see the bottom edge of the interior of the back cover is clearly brown, indicating severe tanning and paper degradation that indicates potentially brittle paper. And even worse, the bottom edge of the interior of the front cover is literally darker than the darkest paper quality tone on the Overstreet whiteness level card. I do have some concern that this cover is brittle, and it may be difficult to perform our conservation steps and to reestablish the correct spine fold without causing further damage to this paper. The last thing I want to do before beginning any wet cleaning on this cover is to establish the starting dimensions of the cover. I'd like to know if we get significant dimensional changes during the wet cleaning, deacidification, and pressing. For the height, I have about 10 inches and 1/4. Note that this is an engineer's ruler and the gradations are tenths of an inch, so this measures 10 inches and about 250 thousandths. Matt Nelson notes in the official CGC Guide to Grading Comic Books that when Golden Age comic book covers are subjected to aqueous bath, the cover usually expands from side to side and contracts from top to bottom, owing to the direction of the paper fibers. Incidentally, he notes that Silver Age comic books tend to behave by shrinking and expanding in the opposite directions. For width, unfortunately I don't have an accurate ruler over 12 inches long, but I think for our purposes using 2 rulers will give us enough accuracy. I measured the width as about 14 inches and 5/30 seconds. When our conservation work is complete, we can repeat these measurements and quantify any amount of dimensional changes to our cover. I sincerely appreciate you joining me today for disassembly and measurements of this comic book in preparation of wet cleaning and deacidification for this conservation project. Next episode will be putting water to paper. If you enjoyed this video, please take a few seconds to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until next time, take care of one another.